The Mi-17 is a medium-lift twin-turbine Russian helicopter designed for troop transport, paradrop, medical evacuation, and cargo transport. The helicopter can be used for search and rescue operations using an externally mounted rescue hoist and seat assembly. The Mi-17 helicopter is the model used in the Army today. It is primarily used for training foreign students at Fort Rucker, Alabama. However, many countries operate the Mi-17 as its engines provide optimum performance in hot and high conditions. The Mi-17 can be distinguished by the location of the three all-metal tail rotor blades, which are located on the left side of the aircraft. Actual model numbers vary by builder, engine type, and other options. Modifications could include a new large door on the right side, improved Czech-built auxiliary power unit, Kevlar armor plates around the cockpit area and engines. Some have a loading ramp in place of the usual clamshell doors, which can load a vehicle up to the size of a sport utility vehicle. For the purpose of this training film, we will focus on the aircraft here. The Mi-17 has a 5-blade all-metal rotor system powered by a pair of turbine engines located above the cargo compartment. There are 2 standard extended-range fuel tanks located on each side of the Mi-17, which has a fuel capacity of 683 gallons. This particular aircraft has one internally mounted aux tank on the left side with a fuel capacity of 242 gallons, which increases the maximum fuel capacity to 925 gallons. The Army designates this aircraft as a dual-pilot aircraft. Under most circumstances, however, there will be a crew of 2 pilots, a flight engineer, and a crew chief. Depending on the mission, another crew chief may be added for external loads and night vision goggle formation flights. On the Mi-17, the cargo cabin is capable of seating 24 passengers or troops. This includes the 2 single seats on the toolbox covers and the clamshell doors. In the medevac configuration, it has the capability of transporting 12 stretchers. The pilot's compartment is called the crew station. When the terms right side and left side are used, assume the speaker is sitting in the crew station looking forward. Some common controls in the crew station are the collective, the cyclic, the tail rotor pedals, and the rotor brake lever. There are 5 emergency evacuation points of the Mi-17. The cockpit emergency exit windows, the cabin and cargo doors, and the right cabin emergency window may be used as points of exit. The pilots may also egress through the overhead hatch located above and between the pilot and co-pilot seats. Passengers exit through the cabin or clamshell emergency door, window, or cargo hatch. The door in the center of the floor above the cargo hook cannot be used by firefighters to gain access. Both the pilot and co-pilot sliding windows are equipped with emergency release handles. Emergency exit release handles are red and marked release. The side emergency exit windows open by pulling down on the red handle and pushing out on the window. In the event of an emergency, the crew station windows can be easily broken to access the crew station. To access the cargo area, emergency responders may enter through the aft clamshell doors. The doors have 2 latches. One is mounted horizontal to the seam of the doors, while the other is mounted perpendicular. Both have a red unlock button that will unlatch the handle from its cradle and allow the responder to grasp the handle. In no particular order, unlock and open both latches. If the clamshell doors are unobstructed, they will swing open unaided due to gravity. That completes the orientation. Now we will discuss the emergency procedures for the Mi-17. When an aircraft mishap occurs, all emergency rescue personnel must be prepared to safely handle the call. These personnel include firefighters, emergency medical technicians, and local law enforcement officers. They must know the proper safety precautions and personal protective measures to successfully rescue the crew, protect the surrounding community, and safeguard our environment. With advanced understanding of the critical components on the Mi-17, emergency personnel can quickly respond without endangering themselves or further endangering the pilots. No 2 accidents are ever the same. Weather, location, and aircraft conditions will vary, requiring a quick assessment at the site. For instance, the senior fire officer for this drill decided that 50 feet was sufficient distance from the aircraft to set up a staging area for the wounded. His assessment took into account not only the calm winds, but also the readily accessible roads and landing area for air evacuation. If the engines of an MI-17 are still running when you, the emergency responder, arrive, you must use extreme caution. The main rotor blades can dip as low as 4 feet above ground level in gusty winds or on sloping terrain. In addition, always avoid the tail rotor area. The tail rotor blades are close to the ground and nearly invisible when running. They only become visible as the engine is shutting down. Note, the blades can still be spinning even though they're contacting the ground and kicking up flying debris. When the emergency responder feels there is sufficient ground clearance to approach the aircraft safely, he will proceed to the crew station door. He should approach the side of the aircraft at a 45-degree angle and always keep the pilots in view. If the pilots are conscious, try to get a hand signal prior to approaching a running aircraft. Access to the cockpit is through the left side cabin door. This will give quickest access to the cockpit for shutdown. There are 2 methods to open the cargo door. Firefighters can turn the emergency release handle located on the upper forward face of the door to the left counterclockwise and then pull the door open, or they can slide the door open. The jettison of these doors is not power assisted. If the door does not fall away when the handle is pulled, manually pull the door away from the aircraft. It may be necessary to break the plexiglass window in the door or the windscreen to get to the jettison handles. The window in the door is made of a much thinner plexiglass and will be easier to break if necessary. Once inside, open cabin door and evacuate the flight engineer if needed. Raise the flight engineer's jump seat to gain access to the flight controls and pilots. By the MI-17 operator's manual, an emergency shutdown is done in 3 steps. However, for firefighter training purposes, we're demonstrating a 4-step emergency shutdown. First, pull the fuel shutoff levers aft to the off position. The fuel shutoff levers are located above the left side pilot's head. Second, close the engine fuel shutoff fire valves located on the center overhead panel. The switches are protected from accidental operation by spring-loaded red covers that must be pulled up before switch movement can be effected. Raise both covers and push toggle switch down. Third, close fuel boost pumps. There are 3 fuel boost pump switches located at the bottom of the fuel system control panel under the fuel fire valve switches. The switches control operation of the submerged boost pumps in the service cell and main tanks. Push toggle switches to the down position. The final step is to shut off and disconnect the 2 batteries. There are 2 battery switches located on the right side panel above the co-pilot's shoulder. Push toggle switches down to disengage batteries. The 2 batteries are located outside on the left behind the pilot's window under a metal cover. To access the batteries, you will need a flat-tip screwdriver to release the Zeus fastener by rotating it a half-turn counterclockwise and then pull off the cover. Disconnect the batteries by pulling them out. To remove the pilot, first disconnect his helmet cord by pulling the sections of the connector apart. Do not remove the pilot's helmet unless absolutely necessary. Both pilot seat belts in this aircraft have original equipment from the manufacturer. Remove the pilot seat belt by pulling on the red release handle. You may need to cut the seat belt if it's jammed. Remove each belt and set aside out of the way. During extraction, ensure the pilot's feet are free from tail rotor pedals or from metal that may have been torn during the crash. Leather straps are mounted on each pilot's and co-pilot's pedal assembly to allow directional control inputs, so be sure the pilot's boots are not entangled. Once the pilot's feet are clear, he can then be removed and taken to the staging area for medical attention.
Got him. Good.
Emergency responders will determine the appropriate use of a neck brace and backboard on a case-by-case basis. This concludes the MI-17 crash rescue procedures. Points in review are: 1. Normal access is through the left cargo door. 2. Total fuel capacity is 925 gallons of JP8, including aux tank. 3. Crew on board is normally 4 to 5 personnel. 4. If hydraulic power is lost, both pilots' flight controls cannot be moved. Aviation crash rescue is a highly technical profession. The knowledge required to work effectively around aircraft in an emergency situation can be gained only through experience and hands-on training. While this video can never replace hands-on training, it's an excellent orientation for current Army aircraft systems and controls. This staged training exercise allows participants a valuable opportunity to enhance their skills. At the same time, supervisors can evaluate their agencies and better determine areas for additional training.